Welcome to the Kdrama Show. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Kim.
We're here to unpack your all-time favorite Korean dramas and chat about all the reasons that we find these shows so charming.
And so addictive, and we know you do too, so settle in with some ramen and a boba tea while we dive into the Kdrama Show with Ashley and Kim.
Episode 2, we start where we left off, sort of. Leo Jun is talking to his friend, Yusik, and he's talking about, we ended with episode 1 of him telling Misu, I will let you marry me.
Right.
And he's telling his friend, he's like, this is what happened. And he's like, okay, well, what did she do? And he goes, well, she got in close.
Yes, I forgot about this.
And, got to my neck and then went and started sniffing me. Like, she was smelling you? And he goes, yeah. And she just goes, did you drink?
Because it's so far out of left field.
The sentence I have down here is, this man is Delulu.
I think that we're going to use that phrase a lot for this show.
Absolutely. But I feel like that's an appropriate response of, did you drink?
Yes.
What were you consuming before you got here?
Mm-hmm.
That made you think this was remotely a good idea?
For the man who doesn't give any woman a second look, he's now granting you permission to marry him.
Mm-hmm.
And she basically sends him on his way, shoos him away,
Go home.
Says, sleep that off, and we'll see you tomorrow, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then Miso hears a knock on her door.
I love her response.
I do too. The way she handled that was so good.
It was
and
so good.
With so much more grace than I probably would have if that person had knocked on my door at 10 o'clock at night. Because 1, I want to be asleep. And 2, nobody has time for that kind of crazy.
Well, and it's Tuesday Girl.
It is Tuesday Girl. She is, pinning Miso to the wall,
storming in, searching her apartment.
Yeah, where is he? I saw he was here.
I know he came in. I love when she's just like, you know what happened to the last woman that did this?
Her name was Thursday.
Right.
And she's no longer with us.
She's not here. Do you realize what he did to her when he found out that I basically was getting harassed?
And then she goes through the same spiel. No, he's not dating me. No, he's not gay.
Right. So you can tell that she's clearly just fed up. Which you're right. She had way too much grace for that. Because I'd be like, I will end your life. Get out of my house.
But then the way that she handles it, she's mentoring her practically. Well, and then she tells her, don't use casual speech. I'm 6 years older than you, and we're not that close. You can use ton de mal with me.
Yeah.
And so she kind of she backs off a little bit at that point. And then by the end, she goes, can I call you again if I have another bad night? And Miso's just like, have a good night.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Yeah, doesn't she try to hug her or hold her hands? And
does.
she's just like,
she
please
just
don't.
push.
Which is funny because that's clearly showing that she doesn't like to be touched either.
Yeah.
But if it's June, she's not.
Yeah, she's
upset
very
about
open to it.
And
Which in general in Korea, they call it skinship, but touching is considered pretty intimate, so you don't really hug much or anything like that. So for her to be in such close proximity all the time with her boss of all people, where there is clearly a line drawn in the sand where you should have that relationship stop, just kind of interesting, like you said, that it's so blurred between the two of them.
But it's not romantic in any way. They're just like, this is just comfortable, this is familiar. But yeah, for this, younger girl to just be like, can I call you Uni? And she's just like, goodbye.
Bye.
Have a good night.
But then she asked her, because Misu kept saying, you'll find someone who cares about you. And then Tuesday goes, have you found that person? And she just kind of stops and she thinks about it. And then she harkens back to the last time she felt like she was cared for. And interesting enough, it's not her dad, which we've revealed is kind of a deadbeat, has a lot of debts. It's not her sisters, her older sisters, who have kind of relied on her financially to get
them through school,
their goals met. But it's a picture she's drawn of this young oppa that she said gave her caramels as a child, and that kind of is the first mention that we have of this mysterious young oppa from her past that made her feel safe.
About him too, because she
later on she does, yeah,
and because it's a memory, and he's like, okay, don't forget my name, and she's like, I won't.
Right.
And she's like stumbling over his name, and he's just like, you
Pablo.
you stupid
Idiot.
little girl. But then he's like, my name is, and she wakes up and she's like,
Yeah. But we know it's Lee. We know his last name is Lee.
Dun,
Dun
dun, dun.
dun dun. But also, can we just say her pigtails are so cute?
Oh my goodness, they were adorable.
Cute little girl.
It's Yeonjun back with Yusik. It's like a back and forth, and he's like, well, why can't you give her up? And
She's like a well-tailored suit.
I can't. Yeah, she's like a fitted suit, custom made for me.
I was a little bit put off by that comment.
It's cute if it wasn't so possessive.
Yes. I don't know how I feel about it. Just part of me knows that he doesn't know how else to express it.
Mm-hmm.
But part of me is like, dang, you sure think that she owes you something.
Or that you own her in some way.
Yeah. It's a little weird.
It is a little weird, but you can also see the sweet side of just like,
we're made for each other now.
We fit so well, and I don't know how to not have.
But it's definitely depersonalized.
Definitely.
Which is part of why Yushik is just like, good luck.
Okay,
Good luck
my
charming
guy.
a woman by telling her she's like a well-tailored suit.
Mm-hmm.
So Jia's first day
She's precious.
has everybody's attention except for the one person who would probably matter the most in this situation. And that would be Yeongjun.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of wants nothing to do with her.
Except to see if he can make Miso jealous
Yeah.
by using her.
He's biding his time, basically. She is the plan B
Right.
to getting...
Which, she's also Secretary Kim.
I know, they make that comparison, and he's like, there is one Secretary
Like, you
Kim.
can't do that.
You cannot replace her.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see Miso is kind of doing the changing of the guard, explaining how all of these boxes are how she's going to be able to...
Make his life easier.
Right, know his schedule, know his preferences, and then makes one specific note about cable ties.
While she's going through all this, in one of the little booklets, there's a picture.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like 9 years previous, and they're stationed over...
In America?
In America together. And it's sad, because she's looking at it and she's like, wow, look at what we did. Because
they grew up together,
they
essentially. Did. Yeah.
Because if she's 29, then she was 20 years old, and you're still a kid at 20.
Literally, her entire adult life has been spent with Yeongjun up to this point.
But then, you see he's yelling at her, why did you cancel this? Like, even for a rookie, that's a big deal. Like, her immediate, and this part of it is just being young at 20 and being screamed at over something that she's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to speak the language. I don't like the food because it doesn't sit well with me. I'm trying to learn, but I'm only getting this amount of sleep at night. Like, don't look at me like you've never screwed up before.
And he goes, I haven't. And if you can't keep up, then get out. And so she does. She quits.
Like,
Yep.
I can't do this.
Strong, independent woman cut to her crying in her bedroom.
Why did I say I would do this? Well, but then she was like, if I can do anything, I need to learn how to tie his tie.
And we see the origin of this intimate action that it marked a turning point in their relationship early on, where they realized, okay, we can only accomplish this if we work in tandem with one another.
Right.
And each one of us has just as important of a role to play in this relationship if we want to succeed.
Yeah, if we want this to get somewhere, we have to. We have to figure this out. That, especially, because I know it gets referenced a few more times in the show of their time in America, of just, like, the things that they went through personally. I don't know, to even just realize, I'm making these notes, and I'm sending this next person to take over for me, and they have no idea.
There's not 9 years of experience
Right.
there. Well, the other interesting thing is, you see he's always been the same person. He's always been someone who demands perfection, but he's also always had grace for her. Like, he's always had a soft spot for her. She has an outburst. If I had that kind of outburst at work, my butt would be gone. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he immediately gives her a second chance. He's
Right.
like, if you show up tomorrow at 5 a.m., I'll assume that you still want to keep working. And she starts crying. 감사합니다. So she shows up, and she is ready to go, and he just accepts it. Like, okay, we'll move on. We'll start from square one, and we'll just keep trucking right along. Yushik is called out again for his crappy marriage advice. That's actually good advice, but it's just he cannot apply it to himself, which is kind of all of us when it comes down to it. You know what I mean? Yeah. We can see everybody else's problems. Don't ask me to be self-introspective. I don't have problems. I don't have problems. No. Or I'm going to deny that I have them. And he's over here criticizing Youngjun for calling her a tailored suit, and proceeds to tell him to treat this relationship like it's a merger. That he needs to pamper her and find out all the things that she likes, and to kind of woo her into liking him. Because
dating comes before marriage.
Yeah, but it's almost in like an ingenuine sort of way, where you're sculpting yourself to be
what you're not.
Yeah.
Well, and I think part of that as well is he's like, okay, this is the only way that this man is going to understand anything that I'm saying.
True, this is true, yeah.
I need to make it, he understands what a merger looks like, okay.
So, in celebration of
the new hire,
Jia's first day.
Team dinner.
You see those in, like, every single drama now.
And not just every drama, it's like every other episode.
Yeah. It's a really interesting cultural thing, because around here there's definitely a separation, I think, in the office of here's my work fam, here's my home fam, and sometimes you do have some crossover there, but it's not
like for holidays.
Yeah, special occasions. You don't have required meals that you have to be at, and that's kind of how these things work. It's like it's an extension of work. Right. So if we're planning a meal, you better be there.
Like, you better have somebody, like, dying in your family.
Yeah, maybe.
And even then, like, come up with a better excuse.
It's just a thing. You have to be there. They're sitting there enjoying themselves, having a grand old time, and then
Youngjun shows up.
Everyone just kind of... Well, first they have, like, something spills on somebody's lap, and then she tears her pantyhose, and they're all just like, is this an omen? And then they all kind of pause, and in walks Youngjun. And they're all just kind of scrambling to put themselves together to not look ridiculous, which makes them look ridiculous.
Well, and then it's interesting because, again, we don't have anything like that here in America, required dinners, but of playing games.
Yeah, like the drinking games and the team building games.
It's just different types of games. We don't have games like that here.
No,
so like the game they end up playing is the compliment game. And I'm like, that would make me so uncomfortable. I don't like receiving compliments.
No.
Yeah,
just melt into your chair, leave the room.
Oh, hey, look at that. I'm yeeting myself out of here. Like, what's interesting about the compliment game that they play is, they start off and they're, like, trying to actually compliment their team members, and then you just see Leon-jun, and he's just kind of prickling a little bit, and he's just like, hello.
Beautiful is here.
Look at my bright aura. But then I love Miso, and she's just like, somebody who works really hard and always shows up, and I would like to compliment myself.
Yep.
I was like...
And she's literally the only one there that could get away with it and not incur his wrath. It's almost a sibling relationship at this stage in things, where you just jab at each other, and you don't care if they jab back, because what's the worst they're gonna do?
Yeah, bring it.
Yeah.
I already said I was gonna quit.
Exactly. So then the night kind of progresses. They decide to move along to Noraebang, which is karaoke.
But they don't decide it. He goes, do you always like to come to such smoky, gross places?
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna go here now.
Yeah, he was not impressed with their budget for that kind of thing. So,
what they could do, yeah.
So they go to, like, this private room, and there's the 50-year-old whiskey that he was trying to order at the restaurant. And Ajima was just like, only. No. Go somewhere else with that. We serve soju. He tells Kim Miso to book it, and they both go, yes. And he looks at her like, Kim Miso. Like, you are Kim Miso, not this other impersonator.
I don't know who this is. But then karaoke goes bad.
It was
It wasn't bad
It's fun
first.
at 1st
Uh-huh.
and then there's a little much alcohol going around, you know?
Like it does.
Like it does.
Is it Soda?
Sarah?
Sarah, thank you. I don't have her name written down. She's hammered at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's drunk, and then there's hammered, and they're very, very different.
I would have no experience with this, so you're...
I'm not
rely
saying anything
on
about my
your-
own personal, but I also work in a bar.
Mm-hmm.
I know the difference very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And she starts to speak her mind a little bit.
she's a wordy drunk.
Mm-hmm. I'd be good at this job too. I wanted it too. And doesn't she try to sing?
Well, first she takes over Kim Jia's
Microphone.
microphone.
Uh-huh.
Because she was jealous that she was doing so well. And Mr. Choo, Choo! And all the guys were singing with her. So she takes over.
Mm-hmm.
And then she, like, stumbles along the table in the most awkward way.
Mm-hmm.
And lands in the lap of none other than her boss. And it was not impressive.
Oh, just the horror on his face. Truly
On
was-
everybody's face.
Well, but like, and then Kim Mi-so, and she's just like, oh no,
Yeah,
because she
yeah.
knows how much he detests
physical
physical,
interaction.
and she was just like, oh my gosh, she's
You
gonna
hope
die.
she has a job in the morning.
Ay, ay, ay.
But then the thing that I thought was hilarious was once she started like this whole drunken situation,
Mhm.
there was the one who was trying to stop her and the one coworker who pulls out his phone and immediately starts recording, and I'm like, that's not
Across
real
the
life.
world.
It's universal.
It is.
But Lee Jun is kind of starting to make me so uncomfortable with his doting on her.
Mhm.
Like he's trying to get her to try things, and she starts choking on it, so he gives her whiskey to wash it down, because, you know, when you're choking, you want hard alcohol to help
Mhm.
with that.
It works every time.
Oh, yeah. But then Sarah kind of brings it to an abrupt end.
Mm-hmm.
All of this wooing, at the end of the night, he still needs Kim Mi-so to, like, stroke his ego. Like, didn't I do a good job? Trying to stoop to your level. And
how I fit you into my schedule.
yeah, and I tried so hard to understand your work culture, and
Mm-hmm.
it just didn't, it wasn't it.
No.
Wasn't it?
Well, because then, isn't that when he drops her off at home?
Mhm.
And isn't that when she tells him, I just want an ordinary guy.
Yeah.
I want an ordinary romance.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, but me? I don't... What? Basically, she tells him off
Mm-hmm. She rejects him.
in person, which is, if you're going to do it in person, is always the best way. It sucks, but...
There's no misunderstandings.
No,
Unless the guy is Lee Jun.
Unless, well, yes.
She goes inside.
And doesn't he text
He
her
starts
first?
spam texting her all these things
Mhm.
about how he doesn't understand, you know.
Right. And I've been in those texting conversations before, and it's just...
No one's really reading. You're just typing and sending.
At that point, yes. I have to say, in my own personal life, I've grown up significantly, and I will read it, and I will put the phone down.
That's
and
probably wise.
walk away for an hour, and then come back and be like, okay, I can address this without shoving my foot in my mouth. Which is what both of them end up doing.
Yeah. Well, she starts to get texts from her auntie as well, though.
Mhm.
And she's like, send me hearts for my game. And so she's trying to go back and forth between these two conversations.
Always a bad idea. Always a
Yes.
bad idea.
And then she really goes off on him and goes, you're a narcissist. You don't care about anybody but yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this pause. And he comes back and says, there are only two people in the entire world that can never say that. One is you, and one is my older brother.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of stops.
Without that consideration, yeah.
Yeah, and then
Because that's when
her
she...
sister texts her again, says, send me hearts, and she just gets frustrated and taps, sends the hearts. And she sends them to Lee Jun, and she goes, oh, shoot.
Because then she just has this moment of like, do I say anything?
Yeah,
Do I not?
Do you pretend it didn't happen, or do we acknowledge the fact that this terribly awkward thing happened between
And
me and my boss?
they don't acknowledge it that night.
Nope. They just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing, though, is that we established later that Mi-so didn't actually know he had an older brother, right?
Yeah.
The person who
think
knows
she-
everything about him she doesn't know who he is.
Right. She knows that he has one because of working for the company, and it's common knowledge within the company that there's the older brother.
Is it though?
Yeah, because there's other people. Because
okay,
he's asked about because he has no business with the company.
Right. He should have technically been the heir, but
he has no desire.
Didn't want it. Yeah.
And
because she asked the office gossip, that guy, but he didn't even know who he was. He just knew of him.
Yeah. So that means she, knowing everything about him, doesn't even know that their relationship is non-existent, basically.
Yeah, right. I wouldn't even say non-existent. I'd say really, really bad. It's tumultuous. They have a relationship. It's just real intense.
This is true.
So that night, though, Youngjun goes home. He's in bed, and he has a nightmare. Mm-hmm. And this is the first time we are shown like these nightmares that he's having that are recurring.
They are recurring, and it's even I know the first time I watched it, I was like, okay, that is a terrifying nightmare.
Yeah, it was kind of intense. It was a little bit intense for me. I was like, holy ghosty.
And she had beautiful shoes, which made me so mad, but it's this woman in heels pulling a suitcase, and she's just, come on, let's go.
Let's go, kid.
Okay,
I also would wake up terrified and in a sweat. But it's super eerie and it's super mysterious. And so, we're just getting more pieces to the puzzle every single time. In the morning, though, Youngjun is trying to tie his own tie, which is the first time we've seen this in the entire series. And then he kind of harkens back to the first time in the States where she learned to tie his tie for him. And we're seeing it through, like, his eyes now.
Right.
And how...
accepting that...
Yeah, just
vulnerability almost.
Yeah.
Of himself.
And letting her be his right-hand woman or whatever. And then we get to the office. Finally draws a line in the sand with her.
Does she try to apologize or talk about the night before?
Yeah, they try to talk about the text conversation.
And he tells her not right now.
Yeah. And then I think she sees his ties kind of off kilter, and she goes to fix it, and he goes, don't do these kinds of things for me anymore.
Almost in a way of, like, this is no longer your responsibility.
Right. It wasn't even, like, a chastising. It's just, like, if we're gonna stop, let's stop. And then he tells her that she needs to train her replacement before she leaves, and then kind of just gives her the cold shoulder the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And she's taken aback because, he's always going to her for help, and she's trying to still be that role because, again, she doesn't know how to do anything else other than to be what he needs in that moment. And so when he's starting to rely on Jia, she's just kind of like stabbed in the heart a little bit, twist the knife. But then we realize it was all kind of for show. When Jia is in there with him alone, and she's like, should I learn how to do these things? He's like, don't bother. She goes, why? And he goes,
just be her assistant.
Yeah, Kim So isn't going to go anywhere. Like, she's not leaving. She's not leaving. Clearly.
Wasn't she given, like the night off or something?
Yeah, she was given the day off, and she's trying to call up friends, and they're all basically like, oh, you weren't dead.
Yeah.
Because she hasn't had a free day since she started working with the company, basically.
Right.
And so they go out to lunch.
And the waitress or waiter, whoever comes up and like, hey, we have this questionnaire. If you fill this out, you get a free dessert or whatever. Which, I'm sorry, I will fill out any questionnaire for free food. Absolutely. What I love about the questionnaire is she's reading it and she's like, why does this what is it, like, demanding formatting seem so familiar?
Yes. Yes, oh my gosh. But she's game. She's filling it out, going, okay.
Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. And then we realize that the person who set it up was...
Of course, our main man.
Youngjun.
Because she gets a phone call from... He's like, I need you to meet me here. And she's like, what, has he been hanging out with Youngjun too much? Like,
why are you calling me? I'm not your secretary.
On a weekend.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be my day.
My day off.
Rude.
Yeah. But she is called to the amusement park, and she's like, what am I doing here? And why is no one else here? I'm just chilling by myself. Yeah. And then cue the lights. Pum pum. Whoops.
Music.
And then who comes around the corner of the fountain? We're both punching our microphones.
We're so excited.
Who comes around the corner of the fountain but
Yeonjun.
Heartthrob Yeonjun.
And he's like, of course, we've mentioned before, he is a beautiful man, but he's just like, has a swag.
Well, this is the first time I think in the show we've actually seen him be charming.
Yes.
Like, we see him be narcissistic. We see him be
possessive.
A possessive person and a hardworking person. But this is the first time we see him, like, make an effort to come across as charming. And you're just like, huh.
And but it's swag.
Yeah.
He's just walking.
Do
and
people
just
still say that word? Or are we old?
We might be old. It's
We're
fine.
Algemos, it's okay. Like what you're hearing? Go ahead and hit that follow button so that you don't miss out on any new episodes. Thanks for listening to the Kdrama Show with Ashley and Kim. We'll see you next time.